Virgo, Virgo, Virgo. So, now that Mercury is direct in your sign, a lot of maybe things are going to start to really change. Depending on how much you let out and how much became very clear to you and are clear to the people you're dealing with, you're realizing that there has been too much emotional energy wasted on something. And for some of you, it's just time to move on, but you can maybe realize how much you were too internal, you internalized something too much, or expressed something way too much. And now you're realizing, okay, it's just time to possibly walk away. And maybe that's what needed to be you needed to be reminded of this month. And what becomes very clear is that you may feel a lot more pressure fall off you. You might feel a lot better. You might be having a lot more fun towards the end of the season. And you realize that going towards things that you really like to do actually brings you so much more than you realize, and how actually it can be sometimes detrimental to your health by even giving into your own criticism too much, your own energy a little bit too much. This is Mercury here. And yeah, it also relieves you from whatever you couldn't see before, or whatever you really need to check up on. That through this understanding right now, you realize you can leave things just fine. That things don't have to be dramatically ended, or even if after you leave or get out of that situation, no matter how you did it, you realize like, oh, that didn't really have to be like that. And that's also kind of being revealed to you now. It could have been with a Leo or a Gemini, or it could be this Mars and Gemini transit kind of showing you where you really need to see things for your betterment. You know, you can understand that regardless of the past, you can still move forward, or you can still be in your life and have a good time and enjoy it. It just depends on how you do that. And the more that you come into the, like, more money, more love, or even just more acceptance of whatever direction you're choosing at this time, you can feel very supported in a way where you don't need the external support. And I tell almost every Virgo, I know eventually, or if I read someone who is like that, read for someone, that for Virgos especially, or any Virgo moons and Virgo risings, it's really important that eventually you learn more than anyone else in the zodiac that validation from God or from source or from whatever energy you call higher power, doesn't matter, whatever is your belief or faith, regardless if you have one or not, you have to find that validation there before anything else. Why? You realize it really meets you the whole way, realizing that regardless of how passionate or how into you get into something, but then it ends up maybe stunting your growth or stopping you in some way eventually, or you don't, it's more about learning to move on. It's not so much about the thing, but learning when to know something isn't doing what it needs to be doing, or is not doing what it used to be. It's not saying that you're not going to go through hard times or moments of feeling stuck, of course, but if you keep coming back to that moment, or you feel like you can never get out of it, something needs to change. And you're changing that by bringing your attention to certain things the things in your life that bring you happiness and joy. And why is that said a lot? Well, more and more in life, you can look around and realize that finding that is really important in this life, because that's what's going to sustain the joy. And for some people, it can be one thing. You know, it can be traveling, it could be this one thing that always consistently brings them joy. But if if you're trying to link joy with money, you can. However, you have to find that communication and that balance in your life, because eventually that thing that brings you joy, that also brings you money, can also become like, you know, if it becomes especially your main source of money, it can become difficult, and that communication with that part of you can become difficult, right? And it no longer, maybe at some point it no longer brings you joy, but it also brings you stress. And I think that can happen anywhere, especially if you want to be good at something. But I think you're finding that bridge. You are. For a lot of you, you are finding that bridge, and it's going to take this part of you that is both wise and understanding of yourself, and also like with a lot more enthusiasm and a lot more commitment to that side of you. And the more that you do that, although can sound like, oh yeah, no problem, it is going to be a lot easier for you. You just have to share that with the people that are in your life that you speak of, or that you're most connected with, so that they understand this month, especially if you don't want those repercussions, which you're kind of used to. You also can choose not to explain yourself, for sure, and just simply explain, like, I just need to do this right now. This is what's building my confidence. And anyone who's in your life can know that it's important to build confidence, especially you who can go through those bouts of, like, being not confident, but it's because you can be, in a short period of time, you can put so much out there. You can put so much effort out there and get so much done, that when you're not doing that, you have to remind yourself to take it easy on yourself a little bit more. And the more that you understand that about yourself, and that you communicate that, and that's easily received, you can, but you have to learn it about yourself first, right? Like, not everyone understands that, and it's okay. Not everybody will always understand, but that's not your job to make them, right? I think you can get that more than anyone else at this point, because you're looking at things in a way where it's not like you and Scorpio can do this, or people with those signs, is like, just because you can do it doesn't mean someone else can. And it's so hard to think, because you want everyone to be able to do and be capable of things, but it's just not their, you know, their path or their life. Like, that's just not how it always works. And, you know, maybe it could someday, who knows, but you're realizing and coming to this understanding that you can only control the energy that you have. And now in this season, what can help with that is by addressing certain things or certain people before it becomes a problem, just because you didn't do it. Excuse me, I just need something to drink. Much better. I'm still getting used to talking so much. And it just keeps things going. It keeps this ball rolling, and it's maybe the longest bout of happiness, joy, or upward feeling that you've had, like, consistently in a while. And you realize a part of it is what you decide and who you decide to be around, put your energy into, or situations, like whatever's going on in your mind. And sometimes you really need to let it out in order for it to be understood. And it's best to wait until now, at least, or when Mercury moves into Libra on the 10th. That may be when you want to do it, if you want to, like, plan it more, instead of being too reliant on when it comes out, because this month there are certain people, moments that won't always work for. But you have a lot to bring, and you have a lot to offer, and you have a lot to give at this time. So just be careful, maybe, who knows it, because it can become very clear to someone or some situation that you don't necessarily want in your life anymore, and you kind of take a look at it where it is very much this time where you're receiving information that you've needed to know in order to get through a very deep and emotional time in your life. You may be looking back at a certain version of yourself, or a part of yourself, or looking at it so directly now at the surface that you know where it comes from, that it does come from something much deeper than you initially thought it did. And what this Mercury retrograde helped you become aware of is that it will come out when it needs to, instead of, like, going in after it. However, it went pretty far this time because Scorpio season is coming, and then you get to wash that debt clean. You get to see that it's not always a good idea to dwell. However, we need to allow ourselves to move on, and what you can see is that you grieve something super deep in your life, and that's why it feels maybe like a newer cycle is happening now. And the moons, especially the Aries full moon this month, which is coming up, and these, again, the Mars and Gemini and this transit, and even though many planets, even Jupiter is in retrograde, and it is actually helping you out a lot. You feel a lot luckier to know certain things that you needed to know about yourself and how you act or how you create certain things around you. You're very aware of how when you have money and when you don't, and how you act. You know, you're very aware of what kind of confidence that gives you and why that's so important for you in your life. And you then begin to even realize that seeing these things, and even though we talk about it sometimes, helps you make more money and become more balanced. And this season is helping fulfill a lot of things, even though it felt a little hard, even though it felt kind of off at times. But these situations in this month is bringing a lot of people this timing that they can't always pin down for certain discussions or situations to happen. And even though maybe it feels like it can come out of nowhere sometimes, no, it's just coming finally. It's coming up, and it can be very abrupt. But it comes in ways that are to our own benefit, and it can make your life a lot better by the end of the month. And next year, everyone will realize why this season can hold so much weight to it. You can see that, and even if it's with an air sign, because there's, Gemini coming up here often. We have Pisces and Cancer too. So if you're dealing with a Pisces or Cancer, it's probably bringing you to either this very real side of maybe your masculinity, or how you hold weight in your masculinity, because we see so many different things exposed to us at this time that you're really thinking about or contemplating, because whatever's been coming out, whatever information has been coming your way about things that you were so confused about or even unsure of, but you did anyway, and those moments of feeling sad but needing to find this place in yourself that is a comfort, or this place in yourself that can be what you are to other people. And I think this month you start to take much more accountability in that, and you're no longer hiding it, and that even feels more fulfilling to you. It's very real for you to keep that going at this point, because it's very awakening. It's very clear and concise. It's exactly how you serve things is being brought to you at this point. And again, adding to that energy and that fortune and this part of you that's been understanding and trying to understand what's more important to you. Because that's the messages that's been coming to you more and more in the past few years. Because just in a couple years, like, not to bring this up so far away, but the eclipses will then be in your sign, and we know that's going to be a very interesting time. Things are changing in different ways now. That's way more apparent to how we each choose to communicate what it is we choose to communicate and how it comes out, and instead of this part of us that craves attention coming out in a way that's more productive and just finding ways that it's important for us to be seen. And you are really seeing yourself, and you don't need to be in the forefront, but you'll get the attention you need this month. And I think that that makes you feel maybe more loved and attended to than you felt. And you see, and this month gives you this very clear view, or a Libra in your life can also be this for you, view of what this picture, this fulfillment, this joy actually means for you, and what that looks like for you, you know. And I think for a lot of you, it is this very simple, but your own way of exploring the world and your life and being in your intimate relationships and having your moments of solitude and what's necessary for you to be able to keep doing the amazing things that you do so well. Okay, Virgo. Yay, we'll see you next month.